Back at it again. It's the State of Football Part 61 edition here on a Monday, October 26, 2020. I am one of your hosts for today. Buckle up. It's a double chin strap affair after the weekend of football that we had. RIC in a place to be here representing New Jersey down here at the shore. Of course, not too far north of me. We've got a special guest. As always, every Monday, Ralph Ventri. He is the assistant commissioner there at the Northeast Conference. And of course, John Murphy down in Louisiana, another storm on the way. We're monitoring that closely. Of course, VP of Personnel for the Toronto Argonauts. I'm the upset king, baby! Samantha, you better start keeping track of all my upsets. I mean, we got to make a highlight reel and just chop that up, all right? I got the blades out, extra sharp. My Rutgers boys took care of business. The Cardinals took care of business. I try to tell them, I had the Bucks before the season. I said, this is a team on the way to the Super Bowl. It's all coming to fruition now. And I'm not asking for you guys to admit that the Cardinals are better than the Seahawks. I don't expect you to. I don't ask you to admit that the Cardinals are better than the Seahawks. I don't want you to. But just remember that when we double down in a couple weeks and they play a second time, you heard it here first, the Cardinals will sweep the Seahawks. Because today we've got a little bit of a game. Contenders or pretenders? And guess what two teams we're going to talk about? Arizona and Seattle. They're on the list. Ralph, your Buffalo Bills are on the list. So we're about 7 weeks in, almost at the midway point of the NFL season. We now have a feel, right? So soft, so smooth, a feel of what these NFL teams look like here. So we'll get into that. Contender versus pretender. We're also trying to take a look and rub the crystal balls and see where's Sam Darnold headed. Because there's a lot of talk in Jersey that he could be wearing blue or green. And they just selected quarterbacks not too long ago. We've seen how that worked for Kyler Murray. Will the Jets or Giants pull the trigger as well? We'll try to get into that. Of course, we've got Monday Night Football on tap. The Bears at the Rams. I'm still holding my lead here. I see 1 game lead over John. John was 9-3. I was 7-5 this week, so he did make up 2 games on me. I hold a 70-69 advantage. So tonight's game could really decide some things here. But gentlemen, good morning. As you can tell, I'm ready to chop it up. So let's get into it. A game of contender or pretender. Now, you know, some of the legitimate contenders will not be involved in this game, but we got people and teams and franchises here. You know, 15 teams I think are above 500 right now with 4 or more wins. Obviously, they're not all going to make the playoffs. So we're going to try to decipher and read the tea leaves. Who are the contenders and who are the pretenders? And we'll start with my team, the Arizona Cardinals, 5-2 here, coming back and winning that game against Seattle. I think at the very least, John Murphy, you got to at least admit the Arizona Cardinals are legitimate contenders.
To have won that game last night? Yes. They were contenders to win that game last night, which they did. And all that matters last night is the final score. However, that's also the only time they had the lead. So we'll see. We'll see. But I think if you wanted to look at them and say why it may have gone from pretender to contender last night, hey, if New England puts a guy like Stephen Gilmore available, if there's a guy out there that you can get your hands on, they got Marcus Golden on the cheat. Go find somebody not named Drake Kirkpatrick to play opposite Patrick Peterson. And now what you're saying could come true, because it's not about sweeping them in these 2 games. It's what would happen if you're playing them a third time. Because last night, Patrick Peterson, we found the answer to a little bit of kryptonite for DK Metcalf, Patrick Peterson. What you don't have an answer for is nobody's covering Tyler Lockett. So if I'm the Cardinals this morning, you got a week to go. You got your W. That division's winnable now. I'd go find myself somebody else who could cover opposite of that. I give Kirkpatrick a lot of credit. He keeps coming in with the injuries he had. You were able to get a little pass rush, right? Hassan Riddick last thing they tried to do with him before trading him or cutting him, put him back in his regular position. All of a sudden, he's got 5 sacks. The Fordham Flash is in effect. Don't have to worry about how much money Kenyon Drake is going to make on the cap because he's not going to be on the team. And at one point, you had Daniel Arnold drawing double coverage from Seattle. So Seattle has no pass rush. And that did him in at the end of the game. And without Jamal Adams, they don't have a good enough playmaker to just play any good offense straight up. You saw that happen again last night. As the game wore on, Seattle's lack of firepower on one side of the ball, it did them in. They had no pass rush. They got worn down by the style of play. And by the end, both teams were hanging on for dear life. But one team had a little juice left in that scenario. So contender, yes. Be more than contender, go get yourself another veteran corner who can cover or at least be in the same area code as Tyler Lockett. Because last night, Tyler Lockett was the one making all the plays.
He looked good. Tyler Lockett, maybe he's so underrated now that he's overrated, Tyler Lockett. And DK Metcalf, man, he looked like Bigfoot in the forest chasing down Buda Baker on that interception, a play that every high school football coach in America is going to be showing inside their film room in terms of effort and giving up on a play. But, I'll take that from you, John. I'll take that contender. Take that label, slap it on the Cardinals. Now I need to bring Ralph Ventri over to the good side. Ralph, contender or pretender, these Arizona Cardinals?
Wild card playoff team, I'll give you that. Contender to win the conference? No, not yet. Not yet. Can't do it. And I'll give them credit. That's a great victory last night, an improbable victory, down 10 points with under 6 minutes to go. And they beat a pretty good team in Seattle. Obviously, Seattle has to be considered a contender to win the conference just because of Russell Wilson and the offensive side of the ball. But it's not the same Seattle team that we remember winning those Super Bowls or winning a Super Bowl. No more Legion of Boom. Quite frankly, their defense has been really bad. I know they're without Jamal Adams. John mentioned the pass rush up front, the problems they're having there. But surprisingly, Seattle, their defense has been bad, but I'm still saying that they're a contender more so than the Cardinals because of Russell Wilson. And the one thing that I've been learning about the NFL this year is defense may not win the championship this time around. If you can put up 30 points a game, you're in every game. You have a chance to win every time out. And, it's just it's an offensive league nowadays. It's all about putting up the points. We've talked on this show about the rule changes that have helped make that happen. But because of the quarterback and the offense, Seattle's the contender. I'm still not buying Arizona and Kyler Murray, although they had a great victory last night. He's still young. He still has a lot of room to get better. They're a wild card playoff team right now. They're a wild card playoff team. And I think one thing going against them is that division. That division 1 through 4 is probably the toughest in football. You have the San Francisco 4. Who's San Francisco? You're going to drop them down below the Cardinals. They were in the Super Bowl last year. The Rams.
That's last year, brother. That's last year.
The Rams. That division is loaded. And if the Cardinals can finish in 4th place, and it wouldn't be like they're a terrible team because that division is loaded. And I don't think they have enough to win the division, never mind win the conference. With that said, they have exceeded my expectations, my very low expectations. I'll give you some credit with Murray and Kingsbury because they're a wild card playoff team right now. And I didn't think that would be the case.
Well, I'll tell you this. Since you mentioned the Seahawks, I think they're the pretenders here. Okay. You said, Ralph, there's no Legion of Boom. It's now the Switzerland secondary. Okay, there's so many holes. That is a Swiss cheese defense. Okay, and you saw last night the Arizona Cardinals defense did what the Seahawks couldn't do: create turnovers. And I'll tell you what, here's a team on the rise, and Seattle's going to go like this. Seahawks, you're out, brother. You ain't even making the playoffs, my friend. You're pretenders. With that defense, you are pretenders. Okay? So, exit left. Like I used to work at Showtime at the Apollo. Where's the guy with the cane? Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
I think John just had a stroke here and you talk about Seattle like that. He just fell off here. I hope he gets back on. I know another storm's coming. I'm worried about him. But, yeah, I mean, you put him over the edge when you're talking about how Seattle's not even going to make the playoffs this year. I mean, come on, Rick. Come on. But, no, I'll give you credit. You were on Kingsbury and Kyler Murray from the start. I'm still not a fan, but I guess eventually they may make me have to come around. But with that said, I mean, that is a great victory last night beating Seattle. But, I mean, what is wrong with that Seattle defense? I mean, it's well, obviously all of those personalities are gone. You know, time has taking its toll on that defense, and they haven't been able to replace those players. But still, I got to think Pete Carroll's a pretty good defensive coach. But John is back. John, I got worried about you there. He started swearing off the Seahawks, saying they're not going to make the playoffs. He started getting a little silly. I thought maybe you had a stroke. Maybe it was a storm or something, but you're back. I'm glad. All right, let's chop it up here. Let's chop it up.
John, Seattle Seahawks, contenders or pretenders?
Yeah, I think, you know, like he has shown, Russell Wilson has shown in the past, he can play with, you know, with this group of guys. And the contender part just becomes in a 1-and-out situation. Pretty much, he's still going to be favored in any, you know, in any of those, you know, in this conference. And no one in the NFC East is knocking them out. Packers, you could say, have a formula, you know, to do it. And then we'll see how the NFC South, which one of those two teams, if they make it that far, you know, to give them a game, you know. So again, I think the paramount thing for Seattle more than Arizona at this stage is you still want to be at home, fans or no fans, if you're Seattle because of the trip. Have Green Bay, have the Saints or the Bucks make that trip out there. Now, you get me to the point where it's both contenders and you put them on the road, Seattle probably even more vulnerable. I would say the Cardinals, your easier path might just be if you finish in second, because if you get the Eagles or the Redskins in the first round, you're getting a pass to the Final Four by whoever gets to play the NFC East team in the first round of the playoffs. You give me that matchup, I'll take that over, you know, you don't want to play. I don't think you want to play, you know, even though it could be exciting to say you hear the name Bears and you think, oh, we'll just outscore them. They're going to have some ugly games along the way with that defense. And I don't think you want to get into a firing match, you know, with Aaron Rodgers, you know. So it'll be interesting because it will be, once again, every one of those matchups, other than the Bears, and we'll discount the NFC East at the moment. Every other one of those playoff matchups, as they currently would stand, would mean a quarterback playing for the, you know, his real, you know, indoctrination to 1-and-out in the playoffs. And it's Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. You know, so if he's going to, you know, if they're going to earn their contender status, you know, Kingsbury and them are going to go through the who's who, you know, of frontline starting quarterbacks.
You'll see.
But what you've seen is they do have a better balance because all they've lost so far is Chandler Jones. You know, like San Francisco, to me, you know, there's not enough balance left, you know, for them. Although it would be nice to see after their fourth running back injury, maybe the Jets could just send them Frank Gore and Frank Gore can retire in the jersey he should be in anyway. And the Rams, you see, when they get into big moments, the factor that they're all in on the pass rush, you get a good team who can run the ball, have some balance to their offense. There's still some holes to the Rams equation when it comes to being an all-around team. So you could see, that division being a little easier to handle and manipulate, even though the records of those teams and their recent success might say otherwise. But to me, the thing is, when you get to, the playoff part of it, the team, whoever, if you sneak by and you do win both of those games, but you give Seattle the easier road, you may have won the division, but the conference then might be easier to win going through the factor that, like I said, that number one wild card team is getting a layup on the road against Philadelphia or Washington.
The state of football here, 9:20 a.m. Eastern. We got 40 minutes left. Interactive. We want to be it. Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Get on board. We appreciate all the chat room people. David Turner from Maverick Sports Consulting. I got the mug right here, baby. We're celebrating that Cardinals victory. We're going to pop him out. He wants to bet the kid that, hey, the Seahawks are going to win. And you guys are all still blind. I'll just say this. You're blinded by the Seattle defense, which has no pass rush, no secondary, no balls at all. Okay? So wake up, take a closer look, re-examine what this team is about. David Turner, they're not going to the Super Bowl because that team stinks. They're the worst 5-1 team I've seen in the last decade. Okay? The worst. You put them up against the Super Bowl team of the Seahawks that went to the big dance, they'd get crapped on. They're not even in the same level. They are going to get crushed, these Seahawks. They're going to lose to the Niners, the Rams, the Cardinals. You guys wait and see. The Cardinals are going to sweep them. Nobody wants to believe it, just like the two of these great fine men who I respect very much tried to sit up here last week and tell me Josh Allen's better than Kyler Murray. Buffalo Bills 5-2. I texted Ralph yesterday. I said, Ralph, I don't want to hear about Josh Allen. I don't want to hear that the Bills are elite, okay? Because here I am watching this pitiful performance. They can't put any touchdowns up on the board, okay? They can't score against the Jets defense, okay? And I don't care about stats, smats, all you want. All I care about is that left-hand column, that W. And they got it yesterday, Ralph. But I'll tell you what, I didn't see a franchise quarterback. I didn't see a contender. In fact, I saw a pretender.
It was a frustrating game to watch. There's no doubt about that. You would expect them to roll the Jets by 30 points if they are indeed an elite team in the AFC. Right now, I can't say they're an elite team because they went up against Kansas City and they went up against Tennessee and they lost. But what they are is 5-2, and what they are is first place in the division, a game and a half up on the second place Miami Dolphins, by the way. We didn't even get to the Patriots. They're a little further down there. But they're the favorite to win the AFC East. They will be a team that you won't want to play in the playoffs. I can't say they're at an elite level right now. Josh Allen will be an elite quarterback. He's shown flashes. I'm still glad that they drafted him over anyone else in that 2018 draft class. Yes, Lamar Jackson has the MVP award. He's just not my cup of tea. I don't know how long he is going to continue that high level of play. I question that. Josh Rosen's out of the league. You saw what Sam Darnold was yesterday. He even fooled me. He is bad. I thought he was okay, and maybe it was just Adam Gase, but he's bad. He's bad right now, and I don't know if he's at a point of no return. Has he been ruined mentally? And it's a question you have to ask yourself. But the bottom line, going back to the Buffalo Bills, I'm glad that Josh Allen's their quarterback. He's going to get better. And finally, the defense showed some life yesterday. The Bills will be in the playoffs, but yes, they do have another step to take if they want to be considered elite. And with that said, for my definition of elite, or a contender for this game right here. It's, do you have a star quarterback and can you put up points? And if you look at the teams, that's why Seattle, as bad as their defense is, that's why they're a contender, because they have an MVP caliber quarterback and they can pile up the points. Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, they're putting up points. I know everybody wants to focus on that defense, but let's face it. Look at what they were without Ben last year. Look at what they are with Ben this year. Patrick Mahomes, that's another contender for you. Aaron Rodgers, that's another contender for you. Ryan Tannehill, I'm not going to go there yet. But I'm sure we'll get there with some of these other teams. But Buffalo Bills are a good team, and I hope they get better as the year progresses. I think they will. They're a good team, and they're going to win the division for the first time in 25 years. So you're not going to get any complaints out of me. Although it is brutal that they couldn't put it in the end zone against the Jets yesterday, had to settle for 8 field goal attempts. It's maddening. But with that said, how about that Jets offense, man? 4 yards on 16 plays and 3 minutes of possession in the second half. But whatever, we can't waste any time on them. Let's move on to the next team.
Well, hey, it sounds like you got the Bills as a wild card team or a playoff team, but you want to talk about scoring points, they're not doing it. And so when you try to talk about that AFC, the teams you mentioned, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, Titans, I'm just not ready to put the Bills in that category. So for me, they are a certified pretender. John, go ahead, Ralph. Go ahead, Ralph.
I'll tell you what, though. They're going to have an opportunity because they have a tough schedule coming up. They have some big-time opponents coming up. I mean, it starts with New England next week, and even though they're down, they still have to beat Belichick. They haven't done it yet. They have Seattle coming up after that. They have the Cardinals coming up on the schedule. They have the Steelers on a Sunday night. They have 49ers on a Monday night. So the Bills are going to get plenty more opportunities to prove that they are a good football team or better than a good football team. So we'll get a chance to see. But right now, I'm with you, Rick. I'm not going to crown them yet.
All right. Yeah, we want to see some touchdowns being scored there. And, you could tout that Josh Allen train all you want. But I look back, I can't even count how many bad games Josh Allen has had because he's had a bunch of them. And then I look at Kyler Murray, who's got 24 starts now under his belt. I can maybe count on one hand how many bad games this guy has had. So that's the difference that I see going back to our conversation from last week. That was last week. This is this week. John, Bills, contender or pretender?
Well, I think what has me teetering is not the 170 that they've scored. The Giants have given up 174 points. The Bills have given up 178 points. There's teams that have very different records than the Bills who are not giving up points the way that the Bills are. And there was a team that was on a bye that has a similar schedule with an outcome of their game against the Bills was pretty close. So if you're the Bills, you better win the games on your schedule that are winnable, especially that game against New England, because that would take you to 4-0 in the division, and that could be your saving grace when you play some of these other games. Because January 3rd or 5th or 8th or 12th, whenever that game is played as the regular season finale, let's not be so sure that the team way south of you is not playing you for first place, because here comes Tua with an offensive line that's maturing, a defense that is the best in their division thus far by a wide margin, and a one-game lead if you play this week and you've never beaten Belichick, and they're playing to get to 4-3, and we've seen what these quarterbacks have done for other teams. Tua just has to show up. I mean, that's what Fitzpatrick's been doing, showing up. And they're ahead of the curve. That defense, that would be troublesome to me if you're looking at Miami scoring points with Fitzpatrick. Now you add Tua to the mix and the defense they have. That might get to be a discussion here because Buffalo has to win more than the games they're supposed to win. They have to come out of this in that stretch and beat a Seattle, beat a Pittsburgh. They're going to have to get one or two of those games against better teams under their belt to pull away in that division. Don't leave Miami hanging around because a good defense and an improving offensive line with young players, which means they're going to get better. These aren't vets that are playing over their head. You get a little Tua magic, that might get a little uncomfortable before it's all over.
Hey, now.
So John's trying to wedge the Dolphins in here as a possible contender. I do like what Brian Flores is doing. I do think that the Dolphins are headed in the right direction, but it's still a little too early for them. I don't think that they're expecting to contend really this year. I think that they realize that they may be a little ahead of schedule. And the other thing I got to say is, what's this guarantee that Tua is going to come in and even be effective? He's a rookie quarterback. He hasn't done anything in the NFL yet. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a guy with 15 years experience and a lot of experience with Chan Gailey. And Gailey's running plays just for Fitzpatrick. I mean, I think you have to watch yourself if you think Tua is going to come in and immediately going to perform to the level that Fitzpatrick was. I don't think you're going to get that type of production, not early on.
Yeah, I think there's some upside there that Fitzpatrick doesn't offer, but yeah, it's still to be determined. However, if you can't score touchdowns on the Jets, you've got legitimate concerns, legitimate problems. You can't punch it in. I don't know. It's questionable whether you can beat the Dolphins and the Patriots. I got to see it now. All right, the state of football here. Part 61, Ric Serritella, John Murphy, Ralph Ventri, chopping it up. Did you see my boys from Rutgers? We'll be back at it again tomorrow, weekdays, 9 a.m. Eastern, and talk the college football landscape, of course, with Russell Landy every Tuesday. We've got some good guests lined up on Wednesday. We've got Paul Crane joining us to talk about Dave T. Thomas, and we have Howard Balzer on Thursday to talk about Dave T. Thomas. We have also rescheduled Clark Judge there on the Wednesday. We'll have David Turner at some point join us, as well as Neil Stratton every Thursday at 9:40 a.m. And, of course, Fridays with Big Law, the Big Football Friday preview show. And don't forget the NFL Draft Tailgate show with David Turner, John Murphy, and Ryan Roberts. That Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Did you log on to NFLDraftBible.com and unlock the magic? The 2021 virtual NFL draft guide, over 300 scouting reports. We're growing and adding to it daily. Oh, by the way, you also get a free copy of our book, Scout Speak by Neil Stratton, if you subscribe now. And we've got the Baldy Breakdown Seminar this Wednesday, defensive line. We're going to have Aaron Donald, Julius Peppers, some great film breakdown by Brian Baldinger of the NFL Network. Of course, you can log on NFLDraftBible.com. And then Friday night Scout School. We keep it moving. We keep it grooving here on the NFLDraftBible.com. And the chat room people, DT, DC, good to see you. If you got a question, drop us a line, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, Facebook. We love and appreciate all the support we get here each and every day. Good morning, DC. Good to see you back in the groove and on your way to work there and doing cases again. So, all right. Let's see. We've got the Cleveland Browns. We're playing NFL contender or pretender here on the state of football. Try to run through these last three teams pretty quick here, guys, if we can get the Monday Night Football preview in and talk about some of your power rankings, and then we'll go from there. But Cleveland Browns 5-2. They pull out a close one against the Bengals yesterday. You know, they got blown out by the Steelers last week. Baker Mayfield, 5 interceptions in that game. He rebounds nicely. However, OBJ goes down. It's just like, the Bills can't score on the Jets. Well, when you can't put away the Bengals and you get blown out by the Steelers, to me, I've got no trust in this team. I appreciate the improvement, but I just don't see it. Even at 5-2, I don't see the Browns even making the playoffs here. I think they will do their colossal Cleveland collapse. And do any of you guys care to state a case for the Cleveland Browns as a contender? Because I see them as clearly pretenders. Anybody? Once? Twice?
They're better than I thought they were going to be. I'll give you that.
Okay. Well, then I think it's unanimous here. The Cleveland Browns, get out of here, you contenders. I could have been somebody. You pretenders. All right.
It's not until you have to be within 5 scores of the teams that are our contenders. You have to at least, be within 20. And don't have these games start. But I will give you one, and it's a semi-hot take because I think everybody thinks it. Just nobody likes talking about it because it's not, he's just not that guy anymore. First off, OBJ is on his way out of another team. And secondly, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if when we get to the 3-quarter mark, might say they are a little more of a contender by him not being involved. Because to me, you've seen everything you need to see. His trajectory is gone from where it was to where it is, and we should just know there's no going back to the one-handed. No. There's no going back to where that was. And this might be, unfortunate as it is because it's an injury, a perfect opportunity for the Browns to really figure out for themselves who they are. Go with the play action. Go with the run game. When you get Chubb back, you have the best 1-2 punch in the league. And kind of admit it wasn't a mistake. You got him for what you got him for.
You rolled the dice and you lost.
But kind of play it like Terrell Owens in Philadelphia. Like, get your money's worth and then get out when you can and just be okay with the factor that the next person who gets them might end up with the, might end up with the real, wrong end of it. Because to me, I think you've had your chance with this, and this gives you a great opportunity. You don't have to talk about trading him. You don't have to talk about, dealing him. If I'm Cleveland, I'm looking at that as an opportunity to kind of move in a new direction here. And I think it gives Baker Mayfield a chance to improve the rest of the way, and not because of his talent. It just seems like when you keep talking about that effort to get somebody involved early in the game, if you're that good, if you're that much of a difference maker, I can get you involved in the game when the game allows it to be. Not when I'm pressing, not when I'm having to try to get you early or try to keep you happy or try to get you engaged, because if not, you're going to be a pain in the ass. I think that's their one outlier that's left, is get yourself over this hump and then move in a new direction from that. And then I think your trajectory stays where it is. But you better hurry up, because I think we've all seen one thing for sure. Boy, that might have been a one-year wonder last year at LSU, but Joe Burrow's coming. And sooner or later, that Bengals team is going to be pretty good with him and Mixon. And you see their younger players. They have some guys. They have some room to develop. That's a team that's going to have something to say sooner than later. When you can trot out a franchise quarterback, number 1 pick in the draft, and literally on a weekly basis be asking that kid to throw 40-plus attempts, and he's played and taken a lick, from the Eagles pass rush, the Ravens pass rush. I mean, if you're a Bengals fan, you don't like the record, but the record's not an indicator of where that team's headed. So if you're the Browns, you better get it while it's getting good, because Lamar Jackson's not going anywhere, and that Steelers defense isn't going anywhere. So I'm pretender, but I'm pretender with the asterisk of, improvement by deletion might be the down the road here.
The Giants figured that. The Giants figured that out. I was done with OBJ after that Lil Wayne interview. I had seen enough. I had seen everything I needed to see after that. That is not a guy I want in my locker room. And I see David Turner saying, hey, 49ers or Seahawks, hey, go for it, man. That guy is a cancer, and he will bring your locker room down. He will pout. He will cry. He'll point the finger. He'll blame everybody but OBJ because the whole world's against him. Man, yo, I've got like half a dozen extra pair of big boy pants. Salute. I got a dozen pair of big boy pants in my closet, OBJ. You want to borrow a pair? Please. Get that guy out of here. The Browns are a joke. OBJ is a joke. And I got news for you. If the Bengals don't pay some of those young players on their second contract for once and keep some of that talent, they're going to continue to be a joke. Okay? All right. Hey, the state of football here. We keep it moving, keep it grooving. Contender or pretender? We have the Indianapolis Colts on deck here next. Ralph, 4-2, coming off the bye week. Are you believing in the Phillip Rivers juice wagon there that they got a little bit now to just make a run and get Phillip Rivers that Lombardi trophy that's eluded him his entire career? I'll let you talk, and I got to grab my charger. Thank you.
I'm waffling back and forth on this one here, to be honest with you. I like Frank Reich. I like Phil Rivers, but I think Phil Rivers is washed. I think he's done. He's a shell of himself. But the one thing with the Colts is I think their defense is all right. I think it's one of the better ones in the AFC. And again, I know that my definition kind of a contender was, do you have that elite level quarterback and can you pile up points? So I guess that would disqualify the Colts right here because I think Phillip Rivers should probably be down in Boca Raton, Florida, playing shuffleboard because I honestly think he just doesn't have it physically anymore. But I think Frank Reich will be able to get the maximum out of Rivers and out of that offense. And I think the Colts offense is pretty good. And I think they're at least the second place team in the AFC South. And they could be able to give the Titans a run for their money.
Thanks, Ralph. They're the second place team in a division where the other two teams are on a collision course with the first pick in the draft.
It's a wild card spot, though. It's a playoff team at least. And I mean, come on here. I'm trying to give them some credit.
Well, I don't think anybody on this panel is going to put them in the same category as the Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, or Titans. Because
no way.
AFC's got the cream of the crop. So I think we can just safely say, listen, Colts, again, we appreciate the improvement. Maybe next year. I don't know. Pretender. All right. One more. We've talked about the NFC West. They were in the Super Bowl last year. They took care of business last week. They took care of business yesterday. Here comes the 49ers revved up again, John. 4-3 on a mission. To me, I got the Cardinals better than the Seahawks. I think the 49ers are better than the Seahawks. And I wouldn't even be surprised if the Rams are better than the Seahawks. So I don't know what that means for our game of contender or pretender. I just want to be on the record and let the people know. You heard it here first. I'm going to start documenting all my selections because it's unbelievable what a crystal ball has proven so far this year. The 49ers are 4-3, John. Are these guys contenders or pretenders?
Well, I think you've seen a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo. They have an ability to be a contender because what you're also seeing is slowly but surely Kyle Shanahan, even with what happened in Atlanta in the Super Bowl, even with what happened last year, his scheme and his way of calling a game is more important than any one individual player they have offensively. Because they're down there using the third and fourth string running back. They're making plays with or without their primary guys. But you can't have your whole backfield literally injured. you can't have 3 of your best pass rushers, your premier cover guy. So to me, what makes them a contender now is you won these games with Jimmy G coming back. Even though it goes against everything I want to do, you have to go get yourself a couple of guys, right? Like, this is the team that you're going to make a move, could make 2 or 3. And I jokingly even said Frank Gore. But get yourself a guy that can give Garoppolo a chance down the stretch as a run. Go get yourself a guy there. Go find yourself a Kerrigan or a Carlos Dunlap or somebody to get you through the way Arizona added Golden. And then go find yourself a journeyman or a veteran DB that can give you another guy. Because every time you play, you can't be one injury away at multiple spots from getting annihilated. Because we saw a couple weeks ago, no Sherman, no Mosley, and all of a sudden it was a shooting match and they couldn't stop anybody. So I don't want Garoppolo in that system by himself, just trying to air it out 40 plus times. Those games turn into L's. Yesterday, they were able to run the ball effectively with Jeff Wilson and Debo and the motion. But if you're now down Jeff Wilson, who may have a high ankle sprain, and you're already out at least probably a month now, or at least 2 or 3 more weeks without Mostert, to me, to stay in the race to be a contender, and they're hanging on, by the fingertips of Kyle Shanahan's play calling, I think you have to, unfortunately, go use some of your draft capital and things that you don't normally want to do. If I'm the Niners, I'm looking for some rentals. I'm looking out there to see if I could get my hands on a couple of rental players, a running back, a pass rusher, and a cover guy. And now you could get on even footing to say they might be the second best team in that division. And it's a pick, whichever way you want to go. You're going Kyler. Most of the rest of the world's going still Wilson. But for them to get on that even playing field and really be a contender, I mean, to me, it has to be that they're adding guys. And the whole reason I jokingly said the Colts are not is, all right, they got the Lions this week, so that'll get them to 5-2. They may not see another win until the holidays after that, because they got the Titans twice, the Ravens. I mean, their schedule after that is a who's who of you don't want to play. And the only 3 layup games left are those division games, twice against the Texans and once against Jacksonville. But if you look at the Colts, and I had them, winning the division, and so it's hard for me to now say where it's headed. That's as much an 9-7, 8-8. That's about the best you're going to get them when you look at the schedule that they have the rest of the way, including a 4 out of 5 stretch, that's kind of a murderer's row there, for them. So the defense can keep them in there. But if you're going to turn the ball over the way that they have, yeah, it's pretender central for them. And if the Niners stay put, I would say it's a pretender, because you can't lean on Jimmy G. He's very good when you put him in that safety net zone of being a little bit north of a game manager, but don't completely put it on his shoulders. You put it on his shoulders, and it's an L.
He's an average quarterback in a good scheme.
But you got to give him, some things to work with, because like I said, you can mix and match. We saw, the Patriots, and they're not the Patriots, at this moment. And you can get away with that. But if you're playing against better teams, you can't play, even with no pass rush, Seattle. You can't play the Cardinals. You probably can't play Aaron Donald and be a one-dimensional offense and get away with it. And you got to win 2 out of those 3 games to stay in it. And you're not going to do it if you're doing it without a running game. And if you can't cover somebody's number 2 or number 3 receiver, all right, cover one of them, but we saw last night, like I said, you have the Niners right now. Until you get Sherman back, Verrett might be able to cover Lockett. You have nobody to cover DK, right? You might have somebody who could stay in the vicinity of Christian Kirk or Fitzgerald. You don't have anybody to cover Hopkins, right? You got somebody who can cover Woods or Kupp, nobody to cover Higbee and the other guy that's remaining. Niners, you got a little bit of work to do, and it's achievable because there's some guys out there, that fit that criteria. It's just hard to be using draft capital, for that type of stuff when you've had so much success drafting and using the draft to your advantage the way the Niners have. But if you want to stay in the contender status, to me, they're the team that's got to go to the board and start looking for some new magnets because they've lost as many guys as anybody in the league.
Well, it was 3 years ago this week, I think, when they traded and pulled the trigger for Jimmy Garoppolo. And we've seen this trend around the league. The younger GMs are not afraid to wheel and deal. In fact, the COVID has moved up the trading deadline from Election Day to this Thursday. So this Thursday is now the NFL trade deadline. We'll try to pop somebody on there to discuss it. And a look at recent trends, if you don't believe me, in 2015, we had one trade at the deadline. 2016, we had 5. Guys like Kyle Van Noy and Jamie Collins were in the move. 2017, we had 7. Guys like Dwayne Brown and Garoppolo. 2018, we had 9 trades. That was the Amari Cooper year, the 2 first-round picks. And then last year, we had a dozen trades. I think that's a record all time. A dozen trades at the trade deadline. Jalen Ramsey, Marcus Peters being the most notable two. I think of Todd Gurley. I think he's on a 1-year deal or 2-year deal in Atlanta. Why not bring him over to San Francisco? Ralph,
well, here's an interesting one. At least one of the 2 Super Bowl teams in the last 6 years has had a guy they traded for.
Interesting. Okay.
Last year being Emmanuel Sanders. But that's what I'm saying. You look at what they needed, and Emmanuel, I'm not saying you can get 3 guys like Emmanuel Sanders without having to, give up a lot of your future, but there's some rentals out there, and if you can find the right guys, I think it puts them in that contender status, mainly because the Shanahan thing is showing you in a one-off scenario, he can outcoach a lot of people offensively, and that could be the key to winning a game.
All right. The state of football here, part 61. We got a few minutes left to play around with. I'm going to come to you for NFL power rankings, guys. Give me your top 5 teams. Spare me the analysis because I want to get to Monday Night Football. Just give me your 5 through 1. I'll kick it off. NFLDraftBible.com, by the way, never stops. We don't know how to stop. We won't ever stop bringing you the names you need to know. Since 2002, it's what we do. Go online, log on. We got a viewer discount only. Samantha, pop that up. 50% off for all of our listening audience. Familia 50. Familia 50 is the 50% discount. It's good for online seminars. It's good for the virtual NFL draft guide. It's good for the entire website. So whatever you want, go to town, take advantage, get an early Christmas present, Thanksgiving. We're very thankful and grateful here at the NFLDraftBible.com. All right, my top 5 is like this. Very AFC heavy. And I'll tell you what, I think any 5 of these could win it. At number 5, I have the Baltimore Ravens, who are on that collision course with the Steelers this week. At number 4, I had the Titans at 1. Now here's how close things is. They go from 1 to 4. The Titans are number 4 for me. I then have this Tampa Bay Bucks, the only NFC team in my top 5. The Bucks are sitting at 3. With the Steelers at 2, I now have moved the Chiefs back to 1. The defending champions, until somebody shows me something, I'm going to keep an eye on the Steelers-Ravens matchup. But Chiefs, Bucks, Chiefs, Steelers, Bucks, Ravens, Titans, that's how I see it. Ralph, how do you see it?
I got the Seahawks 5, Ravens at 4, Packers at 3, Chiefs at 2, and Steelers at 1. Steelers, Chiefs, Packers, Ravens, Seahawks.
And, this is another one I can't figure out. We'll see if John goes in that trend as well. The Buccaneers just whooped the Packers by 4 touchdowns, and they just added Antonio Brown. And yet nobody has the Buccaneers ahead of the Packers from what I've seen from credible people. Ralph being one of them. He's on board with it too. Maybe John sees it differently. I don't get that one. But to me, the Bucs are built to win in the long term. John, how does your top 5 go?
Yeah, so I have Baltimore at 5 until Lamar Jackson gives me a little something more this year with the passing part. To me, that's where the difference maker is. Tennessee at 4, Tampa at 3, KC at 2, and thus far, Pittsburgh's outplayed Kansas City in all aspects of things. So, to me, there's where your difference maker is. And again, I think that also this week, here it is again. Lamar Jackson, big moment against the pass rush. Things that you have not done well against or as well as you've done in other areas. Don't give me a 22-17 win and you ran for 180 yards and threw for 100. Right? If you do that, that's going to be a regular season win, but that's going to still tell me that when push comes to shove, you don't win those games. Right? And I think you got to look at, where those teams are trending. You can get in there. Doesn't mean you're a contender. You can get in, but contender is a whole different story, and I think you're seeing it, with what they're doing there, how Brady and them are operating slowly but surely, they're making their move. They're making their way little by little. And the factor that you have options and how well their defense is starting to play on a regular basis, especially in big moments. They're still giving up some stuff. That secondary, again, that's another team. You're all in. Give your boy Belichick a call. Ask him to rent Gilmore, because that secondary is still the thing that to me, if I'm – the Bucs are going to be there. But if we get to a game, and not a regular season game, a playoff game, and you're playing the Saints – and everybody's got all their guys, that would be the one pressure point on one side of the ball that you would say, whoever secondary can man up and play, that would be the difference maker in a Tampa Saints matchup, not in the regular season, but in a one and done. Because if you want to look at an area, that and can the Bucs man up and play O-line against better pass rushing teams in a huge moment. Because we've seen the Bears showed something. The Bears showed you something.
Well, let's talk about those Bears. You perfect segue. So we're winding down here on the state of football, bringing it home. Monday Night Football. By the way, 70-35. This guy, John Murphy, 69-36. I still got that 1-game lead going into Monday Night Football here. Ralph, we'll let you do the honors and kick it off. The Bears, not only do they get disrespected by our panel, they're still being disrespected by Vegas because the Rams did not look good last week. And there are like 6-7 point favorites here at home after losing to the 49ers, and the Bears pulling out win after win after win, arguably after the Steelers, maybe the best defense in the NFC at least. Give us a little taste of this Bears-Rams matchup.
Well, I think you can't look at everything, what happened last week. In a sense, in the NFL, kind of every game is in a vacuum on its own. So I'm not going to speculate on what happened last Sunday, how teams looked on one particular day.
You saw it, right? You see it? You saw the 49ers dominated the Rams, though. You saw that, right?
But I still think the Rams are a better team than the Bears, and the Rams are going to win tonight. I'm not buying the Bears yet. I'm not buying the Bears yet. They're 5-1. I know they beat Tampa, right? They did Nick Foles. I'm still waiting to see. I'm going with the Rams. To me, they're more of a proven commodity than the Chicago Bears are at this point.
All right.
With that said, that Bears defense has shown some life this year. It'll be interesting to see how they go up against boy wonder, offensive genius Sean McVay.
He never play because they're all screen passes. Ralph is a believer, but not a bear lever. All right. I'm going to give John the courtesy of selecting first so I can give him the choice of going the other way. I think he thinks I'm doing him a favor here because I am the upset king. I've predicted now more upsets this year than I think anybody has accurately predicted. So I'm doing the Brooklyn Brawler. I'm patting myself on the back because I'm going back to the well one more time. If you watch Monday Night Football, I think almost every game has been upset in terms of the point spread. And I think tonight is going to go that direction. Everybody's sleeping on the Bears. Nobody believes in Nick Foles. I don't know what else the guy has to do. I'll tell you this. For someone who's watched and followed his career, I've never seen a more excited, rejuvenated, boisterous Nick Foles than I saw last week coming off that victory. Johnny, I'm going with the Bears, and they're charging in a really positive direction. I believe they are contenders, and I've got the Bears. Spare me the points. They win it outright.
Yeah, I mean, first off, if you're hitting the Vegas selection, I'm taking the points because you're going to get a W either way. And in this scenario, I'm going to take what happened yesterday in a less than 10-minute span where my season could have gone in a very different direction had Joey Sylvie kicked the 65-yard field goal instead of a 64 3/4 field goal. If Dante Peebles had been called for offensive pass interference for pushing off on the Bengals DB, thankfully they did not call that.
Some close games.
If Todd Gurley had slipped and fell at the 1 instead of the goal line, and
the Falcons collapse.
and if the Titans had made that miraculous comeback, well, then I'd be -7 or 8, and I'd be looking for a new offense or defensive coordinator this week to help me make my selections. So sometimes the best thing you can do when there's a long season ahead is not to push the panic button and go with the Rams, but to stick with what's gotten me here, which is I know one thing. I may not be the biggest Nick Foles fan, but I know one thing that folds quickly under pressure, and that is one Mr. Goff. He is terrible under pressure, which I think is something he'll be facing tonight. And I want to see what Boy Wonder does against that defense. I think you just got to admit, sometimes what doesn't make sense on paper with the Bears, it makes sense on the field, right? They're one of the teams that is taking the positive energy of everything going on, kind of taking the us against the world approach. They have lost some guys, Tariq Cohen being the main guy, but they're healthier than a lot of these teams have been. And Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace have these guys, pretty much right where they wanted them. And your plan B, which might have been their plan A all along, is working out, just as you wanted it to. You gave your young quarterback a shot. He wasn't the guy, and you went right to Foles as soon as you needed to. It saved their season, and it's going to continue to save their season. They're right in it. So I'm going Bears, but I'm going Bears because you know what? I was -3, and I could have been at like -7 if not for a 10-minute span where
I had
every game
too. I had some of that.
Every game for 10 minutes went the right direction, because if they wouldn't have, I would have been in a lot of trouble. I would have been firing, and I would have been firing Mike Nolan. I would have been pulling the trigger on a coordinator today.
Yeah, well.
I'm just saying, Dallas, Chris Richard's at home. Your defense was number 11. He's at home. There's a couple of guys you could send home before this next week's game.
I'll tell you, what a fun Sunday. And so many topics we didn't even get to today. We'll save them for Wednesday and Thursday. Tomorrow we have Russ Landy. It's a college football Tuesday. But you talk about Dallas. Will Mike McCarthy survive? You talk about Antonio Brown and him joining the Bucks. You talk about the Sam Darnold sweepstakes and who could land it with him. We'll try to cover all that throughout the week. I will say one other thing. Matt Nagy, there's another guy that doesn't get the credit he's since he's taken over that head coaching job, Nagy has done more with less than just about any coach in the league. I mean, it's amazing what he's done with Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. I think they had a down year last year with some injuries and stuff, but his first year, 3 years ago, they were kind of in the mix. Now you see him kind of getting his feet underneath him. I think Matt Nagy might be a top 5 head coach in the league. I got to go back and re-examine that. Just another debate we can talk about throughout the week. All right, parting shots here. We've had Ralph Ventri, the assistant commissioner of the Northeast Conference, each and every Monday here on the State of Football. Welcome in, Ralph. Close us down for part 61 edition. Parting shots. What's on your mind?
I got nothing for you. I'm just still basking in that great day of football yesterday. I mean, it's great to be back. I mean, we've made it through 7 weeks now of the NFL, and there were a lot of naysayers out there who thought this would never happen because of the worldwide pandemic. They underestimated the NFL's ability to adapt. They underestimated the NFL's financial strength and how they were able to put a system in place of testing and tracing. And the bottom line is we've had 7 weeks of NFL football, and it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. And here's to 10 more in the regular season, chopping it up with you guys every Monday from here on out. So, yeah, 7 weeks of football, and there's no sign of stopping. They hit a few speed bumps. They maneuvered right around them. And on we go.
That's it. And it's been a pleasure to have you here each and every Monday. I think we will do midseason awards in about 2 weeks. Once we hit that week 9 kind of midway point, we'll do midseason awards. But it's been fun chopping it up. I know you enjoyed my Rutgers boys on Saturday as well. We'll get more to that tomorrow. John Murphy bracing for another storm. Obviously, we're always keeping a lookout there. Parting shots here on this Monday morning, October 26th.
Well, 2 quick things. One, someone's got to tell me, when was the last time a team lost 3 in a row, lost their starting quarterback and their backup quarterback, and somehow are playing for first place next week? So the Cowboys and Eagles, amazingly, with the Eagles coming off the 1-point win over the Giants and the Cowboys coming off their every week has been a debacle, and another one where they lose a quarterback. So the Ben DiNucci train might be pulling into the station to play the Eagles next week. So you might be playing with Ben DiNucci or Garrett Gilbert against the Eagles, but amazingly still for first place, which is as bad as it gets in the NFC East. And then a quick shout out, James.
Before the shout out, did you hear that? It's the phone for Jerry Jones. Colin Kaepernick, you're on line 1.
Even Jerry Jones might have to take a knee for that. But quick shout out, Ron James, longtime arena football coach. He's been dealing with COVID pretty severely in the past couple of weeks. Found that out over the weekend. So was he at least able to hear that he's trying to get on the right track and get back toward a full recovery. But David Turner would know him well. Very successful Arena League coach, came up and guest coached with us in Saskatchewan for a year. So good to hear that Ron James is kind of headed in the right direction, but just showing you, he, according to 1 week of severe battle with COVID, down 28 pounds. So we hear it from the professor, but it doesn't matter if it comes from the professor, Marianne, Ginger, or the skipper. Wear your mask, wash your hands, kind of do your own thing, but do it at the right pace so that you're not endangering yourself and others. And shout out to Coach James. Thankfully to hear that he is on a better path, but just quite kind of think of that. I might not mind losing 28 pounds, but that's pretty much not the way I want to do it.
No, definitely not the way you want to do it there. Shout out to Coach James and speedy recovery, and hopefully he bounces back and, a well-respected coach in the community. So thoughts and prayers to all the families battling COVID and dealing with it out there. We saw Bobby Bowden make a full recovery, so that was good to see. 91 years old. We were holding our breath there for a little bit. And so it's not gone. And don't get complacent. Stay on top of it. Be smart. Be safe. You know, John and myself, I'll be flying cross country to San Diego out here November 14th over to the Hub football camp. John is down there in Louisiana, dodging hurricanes and dealing with airplanes. Sounds like a movie, a bad movie for the 2020 theme here. But we appreciate all the love and support. If you are a disciple of the NFL Draft Bible, there's many of you out there. We appreciate all the love and support. Again, take advantage of that. 50% promo, VIP Familia. That's VIP Familia. Get your discount on the draft guide, Baldy's breakdown seminars, which we have one this Wednesday, defensive line seminars, Friday night scout school. So check it out. Log on. A lot of great changes. We'll have premium content coming up on the NFLDraftBible.com. So all access will gain you access to that. Of course, we'll be on location throughout the entire draft process across the nation, whether it's all-star games, NFL scouting combine, the pro day circuit, the NFL draft, whatever pops up in between time or in the meantime. I know this much. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. Till the next time, everybody.